Waheguru Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm your host, Gurinder Singh, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 2 of the JMC Chronicles. This episode is going to be a little bit special because this is going to be a two-part episode. First part, I will be joined by Sahib Jeet, and then the second part will be joined by Ria and Samreen. I will and let themselves introduce themselves later in the second part. But right now I'm joined with Saibjeet, and I'll let him introduce himself a little bit. And this episode will be kind of revolving around SOOJH, which was um, a retreat that collegiate kids, JMC students had in December, where we went to San Diego and we learned a lot about the immigration and how folks were coming into America and how difficult that was. And Sayebji had this amazing video that he created from that day, and I'll let him introduce himself and talk about a little bit about that.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. My name is Sahibjeet Singh. I'm a videographer, a truck driver. What else do I do? Photographer. That's all. So I was fortunate enough to, be part of that project with SOOJH, and it was a really cool project that you guys did, and then it was a really insightful, actually cool learning experience. Man.
Yeah. I was just gonna start off by saying, you said that you were honored to be. How did that come to be? How did you, were you did someone come into contact you about coming to document that day, or did you just, find it yourself and wanted to come there? How did that come to be? How did you,
I was put in touch with Nandeep by Manpreet Kaur.
Okay.
And so he was explaining me that he had these projects that he wanted to document. And the cool thing about Jakara was that they didn't really tell me, oh, this is what we want and this is the project. They were super chill about everything. They were like, okay, just come out. This is the project. We're going to be, going to the border and, checking out how the migrants cross and, go drop water and everything. And then feel free to shoot it however you want, document it however you want. And that was an amazing way of approaching, I guess, because I didn't really have set of guidelines. I was just on my own and doing my thing, and that's how I like to shoot as well. So it was a perfect opportunity for me, and man, it was cool.
Yeah, and I was just gonna ask you about a little bit of the process behind the video making, because I know I had gotten to speak to you a little bit the night before we had head out for the day of the water drop. And I know you were speaking about how you did you've done video projects before. Just how I saw that you were using most of the time you're using your phone, and then you were using a rig. How did that how did the I'm just gonna ask what was the process of making the video? Because I know a lot of people, and I was watching it, I was at first I was just I don't know how it was all gonna come together, but then you did an amazing, phenomenal job with the video, which was for me to look back and watch the video and saw what that day was through the lens, and what you captured was amazing. And I think a lot of people that weren't there could easily have found out what was happening that day through that video. And just wanted you to go through a little bit of the process of how did you feel trying to, you got a lot of personal stories from Nandeep that was there, and Harveen. How are you able to, process all that information and while editing and also building the video itself?
So lately I've been just doing a lot of run and gun shoots, so where I show up with the least amount of equipment, taking a really minimalist approach. And I knew that we're going to be walking around a lot, and then I wanted to take as less equipment as I could. So, I don't have to worry about no gimbals, batteries, no mics and stuff. And I knew the phones have really good mics already. So this was a perfect way for me to carry less equipment, and less stuff for me to take care of, because I was on my own pretty much, and they're on my own. I didn't have to worry about someone doing the audio for me. I didn't have to worry about someone batteries for the gimbal or anything like that. It was just me holding the camera. I would give them turn the recording on my phone, voice recording on my phone, and just give them the phone so they can talk into it and just get some good audio. Yeah, it was I like how the audio came out and everything, and then in the editing process, I try to talk to as many people as I could while they were walking around, and checking out the whole situation, and I try to record as much as I could, and then when I was editing, it was really hard to actually take out some of the stuff because everyone was saying a lot of cool things, and for me it was hard to like leave out some stuff because I wanted to make the video a little bit short. I didn't want it to keep on going for a long time. We don't have that much attention span to watch nowadays either, so I wanted to be straightforward and short. So that was the hard part for me, to take out a lot of stuff. And I remember I made the first cut. It was a lot longer, and then it looked pretty cool. But then I showed it to some of my friends, and then like I could see, they were like kind of it felt like they were kind of like, I don't know, they felt like it was long. So I had to like go back and like shorten it a lot, and just kept it straight to the point, and it worked out, and I was happy the way it came out.
Yeah, that was actually something I was gonna ask you a little bit to like elaborate more, but I think you did it that yourself. About like I was gonna ask you like how did you come to like pick and choose what you really like, what you wanted to show, because that was like so many people had like, it was like a personal learning day for a lot of people, right? And a lot of people had a lot of things to say, and I was just gonna ask like how did you pick and choose like what you were gonna show that day? And I mean you kind of answered that already, but if you want to elaborate a little bit more, like and by the way, we would love to see the director's cut of the full video, like if we can get this IMG director cut of the whole video, that would be dope.
Yeah, I'll share that with you, man. I think for me, it was that I wanted to keep it informal, and it didn't want people to repeat the same stuff that, let's say if when I was interviewing Nandeep, and then when I was interviewing, or when I was recording Dulce talking, I did not want them to say the same stuff. So I had to like listen carefully and make sure that none of the stuff was, repeated. And and I wanted everything to have an impact. And so it did take a lot of time to, figure all that out, but it worked out. And I think over the time with experience, you kind of learn what to, you kind of learn to like realize what to keep and what not to keep, right? And I think it was cool.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, me like editing these podcasts, when I go back, like there's been so much that's been left on like the editing floor because of like, sometimes maybe the conversation was just not where it was going, or like sometimes, it was just like too much. And like, I mean, like sometimes some episodes we hit like number, like in terms of like how long it was too long. And so I've had to like cut it down. So I can see like that process. And I think that process is usually very difficult because you don't know what you don't know what you're leaving out because you think it's very significant, but then you also think like I need to cut it so I can concise it down. So there's always this like balance of like, okay, I need to concise, but I also don't want to leave stuff out that you think that's very important. So like that balance is usually very hard to get. And
Exactly.
I still think that the video came out really well. And I think the concise part that you talk about is very like relevant now, because attention spans are, like you said, a little bit shorter, or not short, but they're just like, somebody's not going to sit there and watch a video that's like a pretty long video, right? They want like they want to be engaged the entire way through, but they also don't want to be sitting there for like 10 minutes being engaged and stuff like that, right? Like these podcasts, we do these like an hour long podcast because I feel like anything more than an hour for a podcast is like just people are just gonna tune out, or it's just going to be too long. So that's why I try to keep it as like short and concise as we can, because like you said, the longer something is doesn't mean it's better. because you can put most of the time you can put that information that you're trying to put into that big video
Yeah.
somewhat into the smaller video and then have that like, you know, out and give that to people as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Goal was to make sure, try to capture what some, so let's say someone who wasn't there, right? They could feel the experience a little bit and see what we did.
yeah,
And because the whole thing was a really cool experience, you know?
yeah,
So, and I, you know, I wanted to capture how all the students who were there, how they felt, you know, and then wanted to show what they were doing. And then like, I wanted to show that, you know, how like there was a lot of, stuff that was left over by the migrants who were crossing, right? Their clothes, there was like an IV bag, a whole bunch of stuff like that. And then I wanted to show that, like, you know, stuff like it's real out there, you know?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I think that's so that was one of the main reasons why we started this podcast was to have these type of conversations where we, you know, only a set amount of people attend the event or were there as at the water drop, but having this conversation afterwards is how we reach more than the people that were there that day. You know, the video is another way of how to reach people that weren't there that day to connect them to something that, you know, we did that day. And this podcast is more or less the same thing, is to bring more people into the conversation that, you know, maybe they weren't there in person for the event, but they can, you know, get the conversation, get what they want from this podcast, and then have those conversations themselves with whoever, right? And that was the big takeaway from us when we were starting this podcast, was to take events that, you know, Jakara does in person and then bring those conversations to online format and have people like, you know, take those conversations and take them forward, but not being able to, even if they're not able to attend in person, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was very key. And I think more, I think like the videos, and I think we like Jakarta has been doing this more frequently now, is to like trying to start document their events like these for the sole purpose of, you know, like you said, to show those people that weren't there that day what was happening that day and have them, you
Right.
know, kind of engage with that topic and the event that day without even being there. Um,
Definitely. I think
so
one
I
thing I
was
want,
just go ahead.
sorry,
No, go
one thing
ahead.
I point out was how well everything was organized, even by Border Angels and Jakarta, because the whole trip was when we started. You know, we went to the border first. First we went to their office, and then, you know, they explained everything to us. They told us to stay together and everything. And then when we were walking around, they were explaining everything as they saw, or you know, they showed us where the cameras were. They showed us they talked about how, you know, the border patrol, how they work, and then, you know, stuff they do. And then I loved how you guys organized it. And then to finish up the day, we went to the Gurdwara at the end,
Yeah,
and that was like the best. That was like the best way to bring it back home.
yeah,
And then like it really, I don't know, it gave the video a really nice touch as well. You know, when we went back, and then Partik Singh, he was like
yeah,
explaining how he volunteers out there, and then how the history of the, you know, second Gurdwara, and I think it was the United States. I'm not sure if it was North America. And then how like he explained the history of it, and it all tied up to the whole day. You know what I mean?
yeah,
From the to the end, it was all like very very organized and related to each other.
yeah.
So I thought it was cool, and it really helped me with the video. You know, I didn't really have to do much. All I had to do was just clips.
No, but I think that was like you talk about the final touch, like the Cordora. I think that was very, you know, that was very crucial for some people because it was like tying, like you said, tying it back to like
Yeah,
us, like
right.
specifically, because
Like,
like, you know,
why matters to us. You
yeah,
know,
like because we,
or
you know, a lot like we were Dulce, we were border interest that day, and you know, people were just like immigrants, and we were talking, but then like we didn't have the sense of like this affects us too, and I think
right,
some people don't have that sense of like there are people that like Punjabi, Sikh, like Ampre that are doing this journey and that are going through this as well. And that was apparent through with the Gurdwara. Like when we went to the Gurdwara in El Centro, that was like when we saw like the party was like, oh, I go to the holding facility here nearby and I go do pot with the people, some of the people that are being held there. And then afterwards, when they do eventually get released or anything like that, they usually come to the Gurdwara and, you know, it's like it's almost like a whole system there, and the Bhakti tries to give back as much as like his time and his money to try to give back as much as he can to the sangha that he is unfortunately locked up or being held at the like the facilities there. So I think that was really key, and I like the point, like the fact that you were able to add that as the final touch, because like for me that day was like very emotional. I think
Mm.
it was very there was a lot of emotions. It was very grounded almost. It was very there was nothing to like. It was like your emotions were the first thing that would come to your mind, because you would see like you saw like in the video, you see like people's clothes left behind and people's all this stuff left behind. And then I know the video captured us going to the Gurdwara, but like when the party was explaining it and telling his story, it was very moving for me, because it was like you can see like how much everything meant to him. And it was like it was so much like that day was very heavy for a lot of folks. And that's why I was just gonna ask you, like, I was just gonna like, how did you feel comfortable, or like how did you go about like putting a camera out there, or like asking people the questions, or like asking them to like share on such a personal like day and like personal level with folks? Was there like any pushback, or did, like you said, like Nandi hit you up to come do that? So I feel like that was kind of like a set thing that you're going to be able to talk to people, but still like being there in person after seeing everything that you saw as well, and like the day that was going on, like how did you feel like comfortable? How did you go about like asking questions and asking people to open up a little bit that day?
I think right when we got there, and then as we started the walk, I realized my privilege, and I realized how easy I have it in life. And so right from the beginning, I started figuring out my questions a certain way. But at the same time, I didn't really have to ask them that much either, because everyone who I questioned, they realized the same thing as well, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone was on board and like with the same emotions, I would say. And so that really like brought like the emotional feel or the touch into the video as well, where we realize we're really fortunate to not go through these things that migrants go through. And everyone just like talked about it, even like without me asking about like some of the emotional questions, they just like brought in, themselves. And I think it was, man, like as we were walking, as we were driving back home, there was like 5 of us in the car, and then we were all talking about how we know someone who had to go through this, and we were all talking about how lucky we are. And we like, I feel bad for complaining about my life now, because like this, we saw what people go through.
Yeah.
And that was something that I wanted to show in the video. And then I feel like I could have done a little bit better at that, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean that is how making content works, right? When you look back, you always like I could have done this better, I could have done that better. I know this is our 14th episode, so I've done that a lot with podcasts. Like when I have to like release it afterwards, and I go back and I listen, or like I watch through, and I'm like, oh, I could have asked a better question here, I could have asked like a follow up there, But I think that's something that like just for next time, you just
Yeah.
for next time you just keep that in mind. And the next time you do something like that, you'll be able to like see like, okay, I learned from like last time that I missed this. um but I did want to ask you a little bit about like your own like you've shared a little bit about like your own personal story that day. Like you weren't just there to like film and record others that were there that day. You also was a part of the whole day and the activities. And how did you like what were your feelings throughout the day, like from the beginning of the day to like the end of the day, with the beginning with going to the board angel's office and going on the trail and doing the water up, and then afterwards going to the Gurdwara?
um I was nervous, man, because like to be honest, like I wanted to do justice to this, like tell the story right.
Yeah.
And I was nervous. I was like, I hope I'm like able to put it down and show what the whole thing, how it goes. And Luckily, people like everyone who I was talking to, they had a lot of good stuff to share. And for me, once I got there and we were walking, it was just like a whole bunch of emotions, man. Like it was like overwhelming at the time. Just realizing, whoa, okay, these are actual people. They're like, it's not a movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, like walking and seeing where these people actually, migrants cross and go through all these situations, and we're like at that spot. We're
Yeah.
on the ground. That was like a shocking thing for me. Like it kept on coming to my mind. I was like, yo, we're actually, on the ground where they, walk and struggle to survive in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah, man.
I just would like, we almost take things for granted. Like, you hear about the immigration and you hear about like the stories of people that, migrate in. But until you're not like, until I wasn't there in person and saw the trail and saw like all like, the clothes, and you mentioned there was like an IV bag there as well that was used. It was like, that's real. Like it's real how the struggle is real. Like there is a struggle like to do that whole trail to get here. It's not as easy as people make it sound to be. Like people are just like it's almost seen to be like, oh, you're able to just like walk across or something like that.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. It's very much like a journey. It's very hard. It's very difficult. um I just want you to elaborate a little bit, like towards the end of the day. Like you said that it was a very emotional day, which, it was for a lot of people, because again, a lot of people were trying to like process what they were, seeing, and process what they were hearing in terms of the stories and stuff like that. But then we went to the Cordora, it was a little bit, I don't want to say it's a little bit more, a little hit a little home a little bit harder, because it's just, hearing the Partiji tell his story. But I just
Right.
wanted to, because I did see you, I think you were sitting next to me when we were there in the circle in the Gurdwara, listening to the stories of the Patiji. There was points where you turned off the camera, but then you turned it back on to like capture the story and keep it going. Um, I think that was something that I was like, I think there was like a struggle that you were trying to see, like, oh, how much you wanted to kind of record, because I saw like you, if you want to elaborate a little bit, I'll let you talk about that. But I did like, because I think I was sitting next to you, I would see like you were recording and then you would stop because you would, I don't know if you felt like, oh, I don't think I should be, recording this, or like let out like the Partiji, speak his mind freely without thinking that he's being recorded or anything like that.
I think when that was happening, I was worried that recording Party saying too much, and then I'm not recording the students' experience and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I would try and then record other people around. But then I would be like, oh, I'm missing out on something super important that he's
Yeah.
saying right now. So I would turn it back right away, turn it right away. And then that same thing happened when Dulce was talking, Joaquin was talking. There was just like a lot of information. And then, I sometimes I would just like record the students or the environment. And then like they would say something super important. I'd be like, shoot, I missed out. Like I would go and like start recording.
Yeah.
I think maybe now I know. I learned, I guess, to keep it recording and like record the whole
Yeah.
conversation. Then you can cut it out later.
Yeah.
So I guess I learned my lesson. But
No, but I think that the story of the Bhaktiji was very like moving. And so like I could see it on the faces of like other people that were there. It was everybody was like very engaged in listening to the Bhaktiji story, because again, it was very emotional, and you can see the emotion from the Bhaktiji himself, even though like you could tell that there's been like he was trying to hold it back as much as he could, but like, he just kept thanking us for coming and thanking us for being there. And it was very, it kind of hit the heart like very like close, because I was just like, he just happy that like there's a sangat here, or there's a lot of people here at
yeah,
once. And he told about his story about like when he would go to the holding facility and go see all the people that are being held there, and he would be like, that would bring him so much joy, and because he would be seeing so many Punjabis and Sikhs, and and see them, how they are doing, and checking up on them and helping them in any way. Um, but I just want you to like, this is just going to be like a wrap up question almost a little bit here, talking about, um, again, you had mentioned that you did like filming beforehand, when we were talking the night before. Um, but I just want you to elaborate a little bit about what are like some other projects that you might have coming up, or other projects that you have done that you might, recommend for people to go like check out if it's available or anything like that. This is your time to talk about anything you want to talk about. I usually let the guests, towards the end talk about anything they want to talk about, or self promote themselves in this moment that they have.
First of all, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, man.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was in India, in Punjab, in 2020, I believe. Yeah, beginning of 2020. So I got to work with some nonprofit organizations out there. I released 3 videos. First one was Patiala Patiala School of Blind and Deaf. It's about a school that's for blind and deaf kids, and then like they talk about how they teach them, and then like try to like document the whole thing. And then the school is free for kids, so do check that out. I think it could be on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube still.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll get the link to your YouTube channel, and then I'll put it in the description of the YouTube video. So if you're
Yeah,
watching this audio wise, if you want to find a link to that on YouTube, come check out this episode on YouTube at the JMC Chronicles YouTube page, and then you can hit the description of this video, and then the link should be there, and you can go watch that as well and continue. I just wanted to let people know that, come here to get the link.
yeah. What I was trying to do was like just highlight some of the nonprofit organizations out there that are doing good work, so people know. Sometimes like out here we don't know who we can donate to in India, because people are like skeptical about, okay, is my money going to the right place or not. So I got to spend one day with Patiala School of Blind and Deaf, one day with Manukta Di Seva in Ludhiana. They do really good work out there, and then one day with Khalsa. And I just like traveled around Punjab, and then went to houses of families of Shaheed Singhs, and Khalsa just like helps them out, and then like they were even helping out other families that are in the neighborhood. So it's just, I don't know, it was cool to see. And then I documented my whole trip out there, just like some videos of Harmandir Sahib, some random videos of Punjab, like the scenic stuff, and the whole the vibe and stuff. I think so, I enjoy being out there, man. Like that's my favorite place. And if you guys want to check it out, go see, and then hopefully you guys can donate to those organizations. Good work.
And I think that's really amazing that you took the initiative and did that, because I think a lot of people, we get into this thing about like there's not anybody, in India or in Punjab that are like doing things out of seva. Like everybody, you hear the stories of like, all the people that are scamming, or all the people that, aren't like, it's kind of like you get skeptical, like, oh, I don't know who to give my money to, if I'm supposed to donate or anything like that. So I think it's really like amazing that you documented, there, not only did you document like the organization, but you documented their work. And I think that's very key for people to see, like, oh, this is the actual work that these organizations are doing. It's not just by name. It's not just by name, that they're not just, a name that is just there collecting money, but not doing anything, or like doing the bare minimum. Like you went into there, you documented their whole thing. And that really helps. I think that would help people kind of see like, oh, there's actually people out there that are wanting to make a real difference, or there's easy ways to access these people through like, most organizations. Like I know Khalsa Aid is very big in terms of like what they do, in terms of like collecting money, and like their websites, like legit, like you can donate your money there. But there's also other like organizations that, you might not know, right? And they're always in need of support. And I just want to say that that's really amazing. So I will get the link to your channel, and I'll put it in the description. So if you guys want to, check that out, I do recommend I'll definitely be checking those out right now afterwards we're done here. Um, and also I think you mentioned like you recorded Punjab and your experience there, which is also another unique and amazing thing. Like the last time I went was in 2012, so I was 12 at the time, so I haven't gone anytime recently. So, and I know much has changed in the last 10 years. So it will be nice to see some of the like day-to-day life there, because I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for you to like, I know you like we were trying to figure out a schedule. I finally got into touch with you after like trying for a couple of days, and then I was just really like I was excited to like hear your story and like the story behind the video. And like I said, we'll have the link to your channel so you can go check out Saibjeet and all his beautiful, amazing work. And this is only, like I said, part one. So I will be we're done here, and I'll throw it to future me when we record the second part, and he'll take over from here. So without further ado, Saibjeet, if you want to say any other closing remarks.
Yeah, I just want to end it with saying when I was in Punjab and shooting those videos, there was like a really content or like a good feeling. And when we did the SOOJH project, I had that same feeling. So, I just want to tell you guys, you guys are doing great work, man. Like, it was just like being back home and like being with our own people.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for, doing what you guys do, man. You guys are doing amazing work and keep doing it.
Yeah. Like if you ever want to watch, and this is for the audience, if you ever want to watch a little bit more and learn a little bit more about Jakara and like what Jakara movement does, we did do an episode in season 1. I believe it's episode 7, if I'm not mistaken, where I'm joined by Manpreet Kaur. She and I had an in-depth conversation about like what Jakara is, what Jakara does on like a daily basis and on like a project level, like a yearly basis type thing. So if you're new to like the Jakara, definitely check out that episode and listen to that, because you'll get to a sense of like what Jakara does and like what Saibjeet's trying to elaborate of like the work Jakara does. And yeah, without that, I just want to again say thank you for taking your time out of your schedule. I can see that like we were talking that you right now you're in your truck. So it's thank you for joining me from on the road experience. Maybe we'll have you back in the future to talk about trucking one day, huh? In a future episode, we have you on to talk about trucking.
Pro at it, but we'll see.
I mean, the fact that you don't have to be a pro. I'm not a pro at it. I started hosting myself here, and look at what we've turned it into, a 2-season going on podcast that is still going strong. So, and I'm still not a host. I'm still learning how to be one, right? So you don't have to be a pro. That's the whole reason why this podcast was created. You don't have to be a pro about the thing, as long as you have a story and have experiences and you know what you're talking about and you've lived through it. That's all that matters.
There you go.
But all right, without further ado, I'll kick it to my future self and he'll take it from here. Thank you guys, and thank you, Saibjeet. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. As you guys can see, that the first part of the episode has already concluded, and this is going to be the second part. So I just want to say thank you for continuing to listen up until this part. Yeah, the first part was with Saibjeet and him explaining about his thought process and his feelings of the day, that the day of the event, and how he went about capturing that day and capturing the emotions and everything about surrounding that eventful day and emotional filled day, as well as his own experiences that day, because I wanted him to share a little bit more about how he felt, because he also was not just a camera there. He was an actual person, and he had feelings and he had thoughts that I wanted him to, kind of get a stage and a platform to speak about himself, because I know the video highlights everybody else. And so I wanted him to get this time to highlight his own feelings and his own emotions that he was feeling after that day. But without further ado, like I said, this is the second part. And the first part had mentioned that I would be be joined by 2 guests. Unfortunately, one of them had to miss out. They had a family emergency pop up, and so they can't join us today. But it's all good because we are joined again by another one of the guests that was going to join initially, and I'll get to that. I'll get to Samreen here in a bit. But before I do start this part of the episode, I do want to just quickly say that if you do have, if you're a high schooler listening to this, or if you know a high schooler, or if you're related to a high schooler, we have Jakara does a year-around conference for high schoolers. It's called Nishan. It's usually MLK weekend. However, because of the COVID spike that everybody was involved in this past winter or this past month, it got postponed to next month. So February 18th to the 21st is now the new date for Nishan. It's going to be held in UOP Stockton. This year, there's always a theme that goes with the weekend. This year's theme is going to be life beyond the track. So high schoolers can kind of get a sense of like what's really out there for them to do, outside of just, studying their books and studying their major, like what else is out there for them. And it's an amazing weekend. You get to meet new people. You get to meet like older folks that have been through the process or are figuring out that, what is life beyond the track, and they get to share their experiences and learn from it. And so definitely recommend if you're a high schooler to come out. If you're related to a high schooler, if you know a high schooler, please let them know. You can go sign up and register at jakara.org/Nishan. So jakara.org /NISHAAN. So that's where you will be sent to the link to register for next month for Nishan. With that out of the way, now I can introduce our guest for the second half. I know this was very short notice. I apologize for that. It was that timing for everything was really off this week when I was trying to figure everything out. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you for joining and this short notice. And I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we can jump right into it.
My name is Samreen. I'm a marine science major at CSUMB. I'm first year, and I've been involved with Jakara since I was a freshman in high school. I actually learned about Jakara when I was a freshman in high school, and I joined SHSS. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah, so there was a lot of reasons why I reached out to you to join. One of them was because you were at the event that we were going to be kind of talking about, but also another thing is I've known that you've been a part of Jakara for a while, so I want you to be able to come on here and get a chance to really talk to and get a platform for yourself and really speak out. But yeah, like you said, you've been a part of Jakara for almost, I would say, if you were a freshman in high school, for like 4 years now, almost about. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's around the same, I would say that's like about the same time that I've been a part of Jakara. So it's like, I think it was all like, I think I've talked about this story and shared this story before, but like, I think around that time was when Jakara was getting more involved here in Sacramento again. Belinda was, setting up all these SHSSs at all of our high schools. She was running around, setting everything up. And to look back to what we were scrambling before to like what it is now, extremely proud and like happy that to see that like something, we were able to like scramble to create or like make in the time being is like led to being something that's, has withstood the time for the last couple of years, and it's just growing and growing. So that's always a great sight. And that's another reason why I wanted to have you join, because I feel like that was something that's special. That's like a special thing that like bonds all like our SAC Jakara people or scuba folks, because I think it was just like we all started around like the exact same time, and we all have like the same like starting experiences. But to talk a little bit about SOOJH, and I'll let you talk. I've been talking a lot now. But SOOJH, like I said in the first part, was a event that happened in December where a bunch of JMC collegiate folks went to San Diego, and they partnered up with Border Angels, and they were a part of a event where they learned and they trekked paths that immigrants usually take upon themselves and try to, navigate themselves through. And so Marine, I was just gonna let you talk now here. Is this, how did you end up going to like SOOJH? Yeah, I know it was like, for me, it was like a bit of a process for me to figure out like how, if I would be able to go or not. If you can just, talk about a little bit about like, how did you end up, like what intrigued you? Was there anything that intrigued you to wanting to go there and like um learn more about what was going to happen?
Yeah, so I initially I didn't really know what it was, like the Border Angels collaboration. I didn't really know about that right when I found out about SOOJH. Um, it was really weird because, like, when you're in high school, you know about at least certain events. You know about the God and like the JMC retreat and JMC stuff, and I had never heard about SOOJH before. And when I found out, I was like, oh, like, when is it? Where is it? And then I found out it was in San Diego. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like Jakarta and San Diego. For once, like it's not in like the valley.
Yeah.
So I gotta go. And then then I found out it was like the Border Angels, and we were gonna go towards the border and do the water drop and everything. And I was so excited for that. I I just thought it was like such a unique experience. Like, where am I ever gonna get that experience again, if we're being honest? And so I worked as fast as I could to get off those checklist items. And I was like, yeah, I'm going. And it's like my first so basically on my campus, I'm like pretty much the only person that knows about Jakara that I've met. And like I've met quite a few people. I've only met like 3 other Punjabi people on campus. So it's like an experience. So I told them about it, but they were like, oh, like we don't really know what Jakara is and stuff. So I went. I'm just really glad I went. And yeah, once I got there, it was pretty it fit into the schedule that we usually fit into. And then you have like all these things planned out, like we're gonna wake up and then we're gonna have breakfast and then we're gonna go through this life-changing experience and then we're gonna go have dinner. Like, yeah, that's pretty on brand for Jakarta.
Yeah. And I mean, talk about the drive to San Diego. We were in the same car to go when we went to San Diego. And yeah, you really get a sense of like San Diego is really far. Like I had never been to San Diego up until that point, right? And then especially like you said, you highlighted the fact that like, Jakarta usually is in the Central Valley or sometimes in the Bay Area, but it's very like NorCal, or like the farthest down we have like Jakarta has been is like Bakersfield, right? And so to like San Diego was unheard of when I first heard about it. And also the same thing about me. Like I didn't know what SOOJH was at first. I had never heard about it. You hear about Lilkar, you hear about Nishan, because those are like a year-round conferences. And then like the JMC retreat and the SOOJH retreat, like those are also like year-round retreats that happen like every year. But this was something I had never heard about. I didn't know that it was happening. So that was like immediately one of the things that intrigued me about going. Was I was like, this is going to be a new experience that I've never had with Jakarta, because like I said, we've both been in it for like around the same time for like 4 years almost. So like up until that time, I've gotten to know what Nishan usually looks like. I got to see what Lilkar looks like. I've seen what the JMC retreat looks like, but this was something I had never seen what it looked like. So that was just like, that was something that intrigued me, and I was like, I need to go. I want to go. But yeah, I think it that day again, you said you were really excited once you got to know like what we were gonna do that day. It was, just talk to me a little bit more about through like the day of, like the beginning part, the water drop part of it specifically, like when you were going on it, like what were your initial thoughts when you were about to go on it, right? When we were heading over there, and then being like in it, what were your thoughts and like your thoughts afterwards, like immediately afterwards?
Yeah. I think when we left the hotel and we went into the Border Angels, like their downtown building. I don't know if it was in downtown, but I think it was in downtown. Um, just that kind of like meeting them and like hearing them speak about something they're so passionate about and something they care so much about, it made me like it ignited that same passion for me. And I was like, like I already cared about this, but I have a different reason to care about it now because it's like you're there and you're with these people and you have this firsthand experience now, or you're going to have this firsthand experience now while you're hearing other people talk about it. And then we actually left for the water drop, and once we got there, it was I didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I didn't have any like expectations of what it would look like there, but it was still nothing I could have like expected. Like it was right. We were so close to the freeway. There was border patrol everywhere. It was dry and hot, and it was in December. So I cannot imagine even being in a car at that like there in so close to the border, and like imagine the conditions that people crossing like have to go through.
Yeah.
It was very difficult at first. I was like, um, but yeah, on the way there though, I feel like kind of talking about it, kind of preparing for it, and like seeing the drive and everything. I was like, damn, that's real. Like people really be crossing over, and they have to cross over, and that's sad. And like at the end of our water dropping off the water too, that was very rewarding for me. Like you're really doing something with your hands and you're trying to help someone.
Yeah. Before you keep continuing, I just want to, specify. I did do this a little bit in the part one, but I also for part two, folks, like the water drop is something that border agents they mark and leave designated waters along the trail, just in case somebody walking by might need the water to survive. Maybe they're about to pass out from dehydration, or they can't make it because they're dehydrated or they're giving up, and so they leave these things behind for folks to help them through the journey and make it through. So that's just I just wanted to like give a little bit more context to what the water drop is, but then I'll let you keep talking about it a little bit more.
Yeah, on the journey actually towards the end that we were supposed to kind of turn back from, we saw a lot of um pieces of clothing and like backpacks, and there was this IV bag. So it kind of just like shows you different reasons that people would cross the border for medical reasons, because they have family, because there was like children's clothes, so they kind of want to do it for their family and stuff. Um, but also seeing that, like actually seeing border patrol cars and bikes and stuff, and then seeing that one there was like this camera embedded in the rock and stuff, and imagine like you're the one crossing over and you have so many things to fear from and always keep your guard up from, and so many different ways to get caught. It's actually really scary. And then towards the end of our water drop, before we started coming back, um, Dulce, are the representative, the person from Border Angels, she was talking about, she basically was talking about policies, immigration policies, and it was before Trump era, like how different it was and how similar Biden era is to Trump era. And she went on saying, like, basically just the relationship between the border patrol officers and like migrants um during Obama era. It was just a lot like friendlier, I guess you could say. It was just a lot more humane. And after Trump era, she was talking about how like they reorganized the border patrol and they changed the relationship and they changed the officer's mindset of, you know, what a migrant is. They went from, you know, a migrant to a terrorist, something dangerous, someone that can, you know, an invasion. And I think that mindset really just it it somehow spread, not somehow, it spread to Americans like all over the country kind of, and they're sitting at home and they all they really have is the like news and the television and social media to tell them what's going on. But when you're actually there, like you realize this is like a real place. It's not just something to talk about. It's not just a topic to debate on. It's real people and it's a real place that's tangible. And there's like millions of people that want to make decisions for this place instead of the people that are actually here, that are actually trying to cross or that have family that's trying to cross. And I just thought that was kind of surprising, like how I was surprised by how my experience, like talking and hearing about it, is so different from actually being there. Like it's so different. There's two different conversations. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's just, you know, you said so much, and I'm trying to, you know, unpack it a little bit myself because you know, I was there also myself that day, so there's a lot of things that, you know, I agree with the feelings that that you just shared. I have the same, but there is a couple key points that I wanted to highlight on that you just mentioned, right? The fact that it's not just a topic, right? I feel like that is something before myself, you know, going there in person and seeing how everything was and seeing, you know, everything firsthand, I almost was in the trap of this is like some type of topic that, you know, politicians have to debate on. It's not like, you know, it's not something that like is, you know, I don't want to say it doesn't exist because I don't want to say it that way, but it was almost like a sense of like this is only a topic debate, like it's only like a debate topic. However, like once you go there and you stand there and you know, walk those same trails and you see the things that are left behind from people that are trying to, you know, survive every inch, survive every minute that they have to try to like just survive like life in general, right? And you can get to see that, okay, this is not just a debate topic, this is actually like real life, this is like a lot of people are going through this. And it's very like you said, it's a human, like they're humans, and it's almost like they're not treated as such now. And you also made the highlighted point about like when from Trump era to Biden era, like there hasn't been, it's actually like Dulce was saying that it's actually, you know, kind of been worse because they thought there was going to be this sense of like hope and, you know, change that was going to come with Biden, but like, and so they try to bank on that, and instead they've had more or less the same, and that's like, you know, hurt them even more because they had this hope about everything's going to like, you know, try to revert backwards instead of like it's, you know, nothing's changed. And I think that was another key thing that really, you know, I took away from that day. But that is going to be something I was going to lean into, and like I said, you can share as much as you want from that day, however much you feel like comfortable with sharing. But like, what were a couple things that, you know, that now looking back to that day, right? Today, looking back to that, what are like things that stood out to you? It could have been like a story. It could have been like you said, there was things like along the trail that you saw. Even like maybe for me, one of the things that stood out for me from that day in the entirety of the day was the end part of it when we went to a Gurdwara in El Centro. That like that whole experience of meeting the Patiji there and like hearing their story and hear them just, you know, let their heart really say their story was very like something that I take away to this day, looking back to that last month. I just wanted to ask you from that day, like, what are a couple things that you took away and you still think about now looking back?
After during the Gurdwara part, I think I was really surprised. I again I didn't hold any reservations or expectations. I kind of just went with it, but I was also surprised on in the fact that the Gurdwara Sahib was so small. I actually didn't know anything about El Centro. I don't know anything about the city. Being from Sacramento, I'm used to large Punjabi populations. So, when you hear that there's a Gurdwara somewhere, it kind of implies that there is a Punjabi population. You kind of have like this image of what a Gurdwara is going to look like. And that was not it. And like, it was not my expectation, but it was so beautiful in its own way. I actually was very, it was really nice to be there and to see that even in such a small space, like when you go inside the Bard Hall, it feels so much bigger than how it looks on the outside. There's so much space for anyone to just come in and stay there. And also the Langar Hall, it was very spacious on the inside. It was very welcoming. The entire campus was very welcoming, and you feel safe. You feel like it's a Gurdwara. And I'm just glad that there's some space like that for migrants, as Granthi was talking about, that there's migrants that come and stay. They have their own things going on, but the fact that they can kind of just all come and have this experience of like safety and a place to stay, it made me, I was very happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned a lot, like again a lot of things, and like the Gurdwara part really, it really moved me to the point where I was very emotional in the moment, because you can just see how much the Granthi Ji, like how much it really meant to him, like being there and helping as many people as he could, how much that really meant to him, and like him doing the seva out of the goodness of his heart, like he really wants the best for the Gurdwara and the community and all the migrants that he goes and visits at the holding facility in El Centro, which I alluded to in the first part, and so did Sahibjeet, was that he shared about his story, his entire story about like what he usually does on a day-to-day basis. And he shared about like he goes to the holding facility there in El Centro and does part with any of the Punjabi Sikhs that are being held there. But also he says that there's also other folks that when he goes that like are very welcoming to him and want to learn from him as well. So it was like all those things really made like, and then he says like when after like if some of them even do get out, they usually come and stay at the Gurdwara with him for a couple days to try to get on their feet or try to figure out like where to go next, and he's welcoming to that. And you can see like how much like Samreen just said, like there was not like it felt like there was not that big of a Punjabi community there in El Centro, and you can tell from like the Granthi Ji, like the way he was, all the emotions, how happy he was, like you can feel that he really was super excited and super happy to see so many of us come to the Gurdwara and be there and just want to listen from him. Like we were just there to listen from anything that he wanted, like anything that he wanted to share. So I think again that was one of my biggest takeaways from like the later half of the day. But you did mention like earlier during the water drop like trail itself that there was like a couple things that stood out to you specifically. Like now looking back, do those things still like stand out to you even more now that like, looking back than they did like in the moment? Like you mentioned the IV bag, you mentioned the clothes, you mentioned the camp. Like is there anything like that you looking back now stood out to you?
I think looking back, you kind of just have more understanding of what you see. Once you've had time to kind of understand and process it, you understand the overall importance or the overall like situation that actually is there. And we went on one route out of who knows how many routes, hundreds or thousands of routes, and they all look different from each other. And just seeing that one, um, it just my biggest takeaway is that I actually have some understanding of this topic now, and like of this. Whenever there's a conversation on this, I have an understanding, and I don't have to listen to other people talk about it to understand it now. And I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, and I like how, I try to allude to like materialistic things that you saw that day, and you're giving me something as like a whole general overview of the whole day, which is amazing. And I just want to thank you again for all the things that because like whatever you like, what you're saying and unpacking really is like a lot for somebody that might not have been there that day. And for me, like it's also bringing back a lot of things that I don't want to say I overlooked, but I it's a little bit things that like little bits and pieces that I may have overlooked in the moment, but like now you bringing them up and saying that like that really stood out to you. Yeah, that looking back, that really stood out to me as well. And I just want to say that this is not a debate topic, right? You mentioned this earlier, and I mentioned this earlier as well. If you watch the video that SOOJH did, again, you can go find that on Jakara's official page. And if you want to watch it, I will be able to try to get it. I'll try to get it onto the beginning part of this episode. But if it doesn't, like I said, you can just go onto Jakara on Instagram, and you can go watch it there. And then I also will be linking SOOJH's YouTube channel, because he said that he's done other projects that I would love to go for everybody to go check out and support. But the video highlights the same things that we've talked about, and just a visual version of what really happened that day. If you want to see a visual version of what we've just been talking through, is that would be the best way to do it. And again, all credit to SOOJH for making the video. And it was really the way he captures things and captures that day, really, looking back for somebody that, with both of us, I think we can speak for both of us, is like us looking at that video and like being like, this day, really meant this much, as much as like the video captures. But I don't want to keep this episode going for too long. I know that we had the first part, and now we had the second part now. But Samreen, if you do want to say anything else in terms of that day or that experience, now is the time to do that. I just want to say before you go, is just this is a platform. This podcast is a platform. I'm here every single episode because I'm the host. I would love to have it to where other people would host their own episodes, and I would not have to be here and just be in the backgrounds. But I'm here to just give them what I think and what I say. But the guests are usually what make this podcast what it is. So I just wanted to say thank you, Samreen, for joining, and I'll let you take it away if you have any other thoughts that you want to close out with.
I just want to say that I'm so grateful that I went and that I experienced everything that I experienced. And it has also inspired me as a JMC officer. And it has kind of set the tone for the rest of this year, for this semester, starting my JMC. And it was a very nice experience. And I'm super, super, super grateful for it.
And I just everybody that was there that day, I'm hoping that took away as much as we did. And folks like yourself are building upon what we learned that day, and that was the key. That's the key between that's basically what Jakara is trying to do, is trying to have these experiences that you'll take home to your wherever you live, to your communities at back home, and start those conversations and start doing community work that highlights those topics and highlights those things, right? And that's another reason why this podcast was created, was to there's conversations that like folks who didn't go to SOOJH would not know what happened at SOOJH unless you watch the video, but you don't get like the personal aspect of it. Like Samreen and I have shared our stories, and SOOJH shared his story of that day, and I was hoping to have more people come and share their stories. Eventually, hopefully we can do that and have other people join and share their stories about that. But that's what we wanted to do with this podcast, is take those conversations that we had in the moment of the event, and take those conversations and highlight those, and then have people listen to it, and hopefully you go and talk to your friends about it, or you talk to your family about it, or you just get encouraged to go do something in your community, wherever you are, to help those that need help. And Yeah, that's gonna do it. Again, like I just said, Nishan is gonna be February 18th to 21st. If you're a high schooler, if you're in the California region, please look into that. Come out, and it'll be a fun weekend. You'll get to again meet new people, learn up from others that have already been through the process, like myself and others that will be there. But yeah, Samreen, I don't know if are you gonna be coming to Nishan this year?
I don't think I am because I'm first year, but I'll definitely be there next year.
Oh, it's okay. Next year you'll if you're listening this in 2023, this is the year Samreen will be at Nishan. So definitely come out and come to Nishan this year
Yeah.
if you're watching in the future. But yeah, I'm just gonna say that again. Thank you for everybody for continued support. This is obviously the video version. If you're listening to the audio version, please go check out the video version because you'll get to see the faces behind the stories, and then you also, if I'm not mistaken, be able to find the video here of that day. If not, like I said, you can always go check it out on Jakara movement on Instagram. The video is posted there for you to go watch. And I just want to say thank you to all the guests that have come on for this podcast. And yeah, without that, I'll see you guys next month. Waigri ka khalsa, waigri ji ki fateh.